Afternoon, everybody. We've just recently put on a couple of honey supers onto several of our hives, and so today we're going to go ahead and just poke our head into one of them and see what's going on. It's a little bit windy, otherwise it's a beautiful day, but I've had some bees kind of bump me in the face while I've been out here, so I decided to go ahead and suit up for safety's sake. I do have my hands exposed, so for those of you who only watch my videos to see if I get stung, you've still got a pretty high probability because my hands are going to be in the hive. But let's go ahead and poke our heads in there and let's see what we've got going on, okay? And I'll try to talk you through it as we go. I'll angle this camera down so that you can see as I work. All right. Now, I will not be able to see any of your comments or questions unless I come back around and look at my screen. So please don't think I'm ignoring you. It's not on purpose, I promise. I pre-smoked this hive, gave it a little bit of time for the smoke to take effect. So with any luck, they are calm. But we will see. Now, as you can tell, there isn't a whole lot of activity up in this top super yet. I'm not really surprised by that. We actually didn't expect a ton of activity, but they are up there walking around, so that's a good sign. And then in this first super, technically the bottom honey super, again you can see that they're up there. They're doing a little bit of cleaning, but for the most part, they're not up in it. Since we are already in this hive, let's check our population. We're going to move this right on out of the way. This that you see now, let me make sure that it's still in the frame of the screen. There we go. I'll even lower you down a little bit. There we have it. That'll get us a little bit closer. So that wire that you see there, that's what we call a queen excluder. And it does exactly that. You probably heard me talk about it in previous videos, but that was a year ago, so I'll say it again. That just prevents the queen, her body, and the drones really can't fit through those wires. The workers, however, with their nectar and their pollen, they can get right on through. Well, with their nectar. To correct what I just said, the pollen sacs actually will get removed the pollen will get removed walking through those wires. So it allows for only honey to be stored in the honey supers. That's a foundation frame that I just pulled out. They will be building that as the honey stores increase, because they use that for the energy necessary to produce the wax. So they'll draw that out and they'll be able to fill that with food stores to get them through the winter. Those two are stuck together. That's not good. So we're going to separate those. Now I do have a lot of bee activity right here in these two frames, so that's the reason why these actually 3 or 4 frames right up here in the top. So we're going to pull this one out and see what we can see. Alright, so this is nectar. I'm not seeing any. Oh, there is the queen right there. You can see her with the yellow dot on her back. She is a lovely specimen. Yellow dot on her back. Yep, she is in the frame right now. So that means that she is, yep, and I do see, I won't be able to show you necessarily on the camera, but I do see that they've got some food down in the bottom of these cells. Not honey, but what they call royal jelly. They actually feed that to the young bees early on. They then switch them over to a different food source. That's what prevents them from turning into queens. but to jumpstart their metabolism and get them started in their development, they do feed that. So the larva will swim around in that for a few days as they develop. So I've got some egg in there. She is laying. You can actually see the pattern here. This is where the larva will be laid, and this is where the food stores along the outside edges. That's where the food stores will be, so that the nurse bees will have ready access to that food. So that is wonderful. We are going to gently place her right back in there. Now I've placed her in between here, so I'm going to put this new foundation frame right on back inside. And that being said, now that I know where she is, I know that this top super, this bottom super is going to be loaded with egg and larva, mostly capped. So she's moved up here. They're building out these foundation frames so that she'll have more space to lay. She's also got several comb frames up here, so she does have room for laying, as you've seen, because she was laying on that particular frame. So this hive is geared up for an explosion. Explosion in a positive way, by the way. Let's not get carried away there. But so what that will do is that's going to produce a lot of new young bees, so that spring, which obviously is here, you can tell by the temperature, once the tulip poplar and other major nectar providers in the Kentucky, the Louisville area, once they start blooming, we will have a large population of bees ready to go, and they'll start harvesting. So we will be filling these two supers and many more, hopefully, with honey. However, just because we saw what we wanted to see in this one doesn't mean that we're done. I've got another hive. It's I've got 3 deep supers on it. I really want to see what's going on with it. So since you are here, we're going to go ahead and go take a look at that as well. All right, that being said, hang out with me while I take this tripod over to the next hive. Okay? It is a much larger, physically larger hive, because like I said, it does have the 3 deeps. And look at that dogwood. 3 deeps. My wife's Jeep. If you see that baby running around town, I'm on my way to the bees, or hopefully to show a house. I don't know if you can hear the girls buzzing or not around the phone, camera microphone. This is the hive we're going into now. As you can tell, I've got 3 deeps in there. The queen will be in one of those 3 supers. That's where she's going to be doing her laying, in one of those 3. She's already laid in the others, or is on her way up into one. Whatever the case is, we're going to find out when we get there. And then the 2 shallower supers on the top, supers are those boxes, that's what we're referring to. Those are just honey. In between, you can actually see the metal of the queen excluder. So she's down below here, as are the drones, as is the pollen. And only honey will be going up into the top. All right, so let's get in there and let's see what we've got going on. Now, I didn't expect that last one to go as easily as it did. I thought we were going to be in there for longer, so I did not pre-smoke this one. So those of you who only watch this to see me get stung, keep watching. All right, got a little bit of smoke in the entrance. We have screened bottom boards, so I've actually taken to blowing some smoke up underneath the bottom boards as well, so that it'll kind of get pulled up into the hive. just to help calm them down a little bit more. All right, hive top is what I just removed. Inner cover, I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Yeah, you can see it right there. Okay, so right here we've got a little gap. That is actually, when the hive cover is on, this inner cover provides some airflow. Oh, we got a lot more bees. Well, we got quite a few more bees up in the top honey supers than we saw in the other hives. Still not a ton. Let's see if I can pull one of these frames out. Each of the frames looks about like that. So we don't have a ton of bees up here, but we do have bees. So they are preparing this area to begin the process of receiving nectar, which will then be turned into honey. Same thing, they are up here a little bit, but again, we don't have a heavy flow going on, so I don't expect them to be up here en masse. But they are up here working, they are getting it prepared, laying the groundwork, so to speak. But wait until we remove this super and you see this population down below. Good golly. This is a well-populated hive. All right, we're going to turn this down just a little bit, angle it so that you can see it better. How is that? All right, that looks good. All right, give a little bit of smoke. Let's see what we see, all right? Real quick point. Oh, sorry about that. I just kicked the tripod. Real quick point. Bees are going to build comb on any available surface. That's what that is. That's bee-built foundation where they are trying to put comb. They have space available, so they are going to fill it with comb. That's the reason. One of the reasons why we try to provide them with foundation wax, so that we can kind of keep a little bit of control over where they're putting the comb. But you can see across the tops of these frames, sometimes that's going to work. Most of the time that's going to work. Sometimes it's just not. Being a beekeeper, I find, sometimes is a lot like telling God what your plans are. You can have plans all day long. The bees are going to do what they want. All right, let's get in here, huh? All right, so one of the things that you want to do is you want to find frames that have less activity on them than other frames, and you want to remove those first. The reason for that, at least one or two of those, the reason for that is you want to give yourself space to operate inside the hive without unnecessary risk to your bee population. Every time you go into a hive, every time you close up a hive, you're going to potentially crush bees. So you want to minimize that risk, and you want to work with the lightly populated frames, such as this one. Nectar on here, no larvae or anything like that. So they are bringing nectar in. They oh, sorry girls. Well, if you'll quit trying to drag it down, I'll take it out. There we go. Thank you. So they fill from the bottom and then they bring their way up, okay? The wind is picking up. So I do hope you are able to still hear me. We're going to move our way in, because if she has moved up, if she's laying in this frame or in this super, she's most likely going to be, she'll start in the center and then work her way out. So that's where we're going to move towards. This right here is what we call a beetle blaster. There's this thing called the hive beetle, a little creature, really kind of sucks. It's a beetle like any other beetle. They're really small. They've got that hard exoskeleton, so the bees aren't really able to sting them. there's not really too much they can do. They'll bite at them and all that kind of stuff and agitate them. And the beetles will run off and they can get down into little nooks and crannies and hide from the bees. So we provide the hive beetle with a little nook and a cranny for it to escape from the bee. But then we also filled it with mineral oil, so when they get down in it, it kills them and they don't get back in. They're very destructive in the hive. All right, so there's nothing going on there. So we're going to just leave that one in here. We'll move this one over as well. They're very destructive. The hive beetle is very destructive inside the hive. So we like to find ways to keep the population at a minimum. And so we use the hive beetle, the beetle trap. So that's that, okay? All right, so here we are. We got one of the center frames. Take a look. I do not see queen. I don't see evidence. Oh, I am kidding. Right through here, I do see, can you, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see, make sure you're in the, yeah, okay, good, you're centered. All right, so right through here for sure, I see larva. So she has been on this frame, definitely, and has laid there. I'm looking in the center. I do not see eggs. However, they may have recently hatched. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. Oh. But right through here again, that actually looks like it. This looks like drone. The cell itself is wider. If you look right through here, these are much narrower cells than over here. So these are going to end up ultimately being drone brood, which is fine. I mean, this is definitely that time of year, but that's also why there's not a whole lot up here, and it's just kind of in this one little small area. And I think actually if I pay attention on both, yeah, that's the same thing here. These are going to be the wider cells, so that's going to ultimately, that'll end up being drone brood, okay? Still cool. And it still means that she's laying up here because she will be the only one laying. Let's take a look and see what the next frame has. This is the time of year that you actually might get to experience a swarm. Actually, right before I started this live video, I got contacted from my dad. He had received news of a potential swarm. Ultimately panned out to be nothing, but we are always on the lookout. You can reach me through Facebook. All right, so here we go, through Facebook, through my cell phone, whatever the case is, and I am happy to hear about your drone, your swarms. Right down here at the bottom, now we did end up smashing a few, but that's why you always want to be careful. But you see how far out they built that. Again, this is going to be drone, not workers. I'm not terribly concerned about, you know, the fact that I just accidentally killed some drones. There's a drone right here at the tip. You can see how much larger he is than she is. She is one of the workers. She's much smaller frame. She's the workhorse. She's the one that's going out and, you know, gathering the nectar, gathering the pollen, water, whatever resources the hive is in need of at that time. He is the one that, you know, just kind of gobbles it up. He's around for mating, and then that's about it. But I mean, you can see them by comparison, they're just freaking huge. The female is also the protector. She is the one with the stinger. The male, the drone, does not have a stinger, so he isn't going to be able to even defend the hive. He does nothing. Now, there has been some talk, or at least I've read not too long ago, that they do at least lend their wings when it comes to ventilation in the hive. So what the bees will do there is they will, oh, nope. I just saw comb connected down there, and I saw, what am I trying to say? Brood. So we're just going to leave those two together. However, I will take this super off and we'll go down another super. How's that? Anyway, so they will, I'm going to put this in the middle because if she is up here getting ready to lay, I want her to have an empty frame. So the drones will stand somewhere in the hive and beat their wings with the workers. And again, this is according to the study. I've never seen any evidence of it myself, but in my defense, I've never actually looked for that evidence. I don't care what the drones do. They're here for a period of time. They provide their service, and then they either die at or after mating, or when their services are no longer required, you know, the hive just kills them. So I don't really care what they do. Here today, gone tomorrow. That had weight to it. All right, let's give them a little bit of smoke. Real quick, I'm gonna check my screen to see if anybody's posted any questions. Nope, everybody's just watching. All right, I'm gonna angle this camera down though. What in the heck? There we go. That'll give you a little bit better view. Let's see if we can lower it a bit. Yeah, that should help. Perfect. All right, so outside frame, again, low activity, less likely to damage bees. You always want to be slow and deliberate when you're working with them. Again, decreases the chance that you damage them. I feel great weight to this. Right through here you can see pollen and nectar. You call it nectar now because they haven't capped it. They don't cap it until they've evaporated enough of the water content out of it to create, for it to be the consistency of honey. So once it's capped, then it's honey. Until then, it's just nectar that's being evaporated. Water content is being evaporated. And the way this works is they get normally they get 2 deep supers. This one has 3 because she was just prolifically laying and we wanted a large colony, so we gave her that opportunity. They get 2 deep frames, deep supers, excuse me. And from there, they are able to build their food and their food supply going into winter. Anything above the, come on girls, anything above the queen excluder is for us to harvest. It's in their contract, I promise. Get off of that corner. I'm trying to set you down. Twerps. There's always one. There we go. Okay. Now, so here is more drone in this corner, right? Mostly we have pollen and we have nectar. That means this is more of a food frame than a young frame or brood frame. We do, however, on this corner, we do have some broods. So they try to keep brood and food for the brood close together. You can see some pollen in here, nectar down in here, and then capped brood. Here's a great example of capped worker brood versus a capped drone cell or brood. And here's another one that hasn't been capped yet. That one's still being developed and fed. But there you can see a comparison of the two. Make sure that's in the frame. Oh, I'm sitting here pointing it out and you can't even see it. All right. That should work. Right in here, that's drone. This is all capped brood. That's capped drone. This is uncapped drone. You can see how much larger that one is. All right. So we're going to turn this one inside. like it was before. That said, that means that we have a much higher probability of coming across brood in this next frame. And ultimately, that's what we are looking for today. I want to see evidence of a prolifically laying queen, because that indicates that we are going to have a large population of bees for harvesting honey. And look at that. I just might know what I'm talking about. That is capped worker brood. So that is much closer to hatching. Now, around here, don't you sting me in the finger. Although that's a good one to sting me on, because I'll show everybody all day long. All right. Right through here, you'll be able to, hopefully you can see in there, I mean, I can only do so much for the angle, but there is a lot of larvae in here. So she has recently been here laying, you know, within days. It has hatched from its egg and it has now developed into larvae. They will continue to feed these girls until they reach the appropriate size. They'll dump the food in there, they'll cap it off, and then they will be left for their pupa stage until they develop into adults, at which point they will chew their way out. You can see here some of these girls have their heads buried in those cells. They may have recently hatched, because it's widely believed that the workers will hatch, turn around, clean their cell, and then they'll just move on to the next, to the next, to the next. They'll just keep on. They are born working. How many parents out there wish that for their own offspring? Anyway, and here we are again on this side with more capped brood. I was taking a moment to look for the queen, but I do not see her. But again, we also have larvae. It'll be a little bit hard to get the angle. The cells, I don't know if you know this or not, but they've got a slight angle. The cells have a slight angle up. That's what holds the honey in, just gravity. So that's kind of a cool thing. Not going to go through too many more of these frames, actually. I'm about to call it done. We have seen everything that we need to see. At this point, I'm going to show you this one more frame before I close it up. Basically because, you know, being a beekeeper is really kind of cool and I like to brag about it. Alright, they had some, felt like burr comb down at the bottom there that locked it. Yep, that's exactly what happened. They built comb between the frames, locking it into place. But again, we get great selection of, you know, as far as visual is concerned, of capped worker brood versus your capped drone brood, and you get to see those size comparisons. Ultimately, we have a very large population of bees, and we have a very large population of, there's more brood in here, so we have a very large population of brood. As a beekeeper, you could want for nothing more. This hive, at a minimum, is going to be a great honey producing hive. One of the things that makes me most proud to be able to say that is that this queen is the result of my very first attempt at grafting queens from our own stock. And here she is with 3 brood food chambers, just doing amazing work. So I am not dissatisfied. I am quite proud of myself. Now this is again a food frame. They always try to put the food frames to the outside of the hive. They do that for insulation purposes. That way drastic cold or drastic heat does not have, don't do it girl. She came right at my wedding ring. The cold or heat does not have drastic effects on the brood, which is more towards the center of these supers. That allows them to do a better job of climate control around the brood itself. All right, so I'm gonna let you hang out with me while I put this back together. Boy, that's got some weight to it. Blast. All right, and again, these beetle busters have mineral oil in them, so you always have to take those out before you start messing with your supers. Otherwise, you'll drip that mineral oil into the hive and you will just kill every bee that it touches. So you want to really be careful with that stuff, okay? If you're going to use it, if you are a beekeeper. If you're not a beekeeper and you want to learn more, keep watching these videos. And get you some books. And ask a ton of questions of your local beekeeper. Or me. Get the spacing correct on these. Here, I'm going to raise this back up so that you can see that process too. Best I can do. Space them out as best you can so that normally we have spacers in here, but this particular super didn't have any. So we do it by hand, by sight. You just space them out so that when they build their comb, they come out a little bit past the frame. That makes the caps easier for us to cut off, so that we can then extract the honey. And there's our bee yard. I hope that you enjoyed today's broadcast. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks you'll be able to get to see more of these. If you do have any questions or anything that you'd like to see in the hives, post them here, and if I can get to them, if that's something that's reasonable that I can show you, absolutely be happy to do so. In the meantime, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and share.